Vision Zero Advisory Committee meeting. Staff, please call the roll so we can establish a quorum.
At this time, I am only asking those VZAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. I want to remind you to unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a VZAC representative. Bruce Rosenzweig.
Here.
Craig Binder.
Alternate Mosey Abdulrahmanov.
Ted Goodenough. Joan Olivia. Joan Scaria. Fadi Nazar.
Here.
Ryan Mugridge.
Sergeant Yoder as an alternate for Ryan Mugridge.
JC Beery. David Willock.
Here.
Jean Matthews.
Here.
Bruce Guyton.
Elijah Brown here, alternate for Bruce.
Michael Owens. Christian Santa Gonzalez.
Kyle Byrne, alternate for Christian.
Jermaine Swaby.
Here.
Eliza Hanson. Missy Barletto.
Here.
Tracy Phelps.
Here.
Stephanie Thoborn.
Yeah, Garrett Watson here is alternate.
Claudette De Los Santos is absent. We have a quorum. Thank you.
Staff, are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the following members are requesting VZAC permission to participate remotely. Michael Owens, Joan Olivia, Christian Melendez.
Members, are there any objections to these members participating remotely?
No.
No. Okay. Seeing none, these members are approved to participate remotely. Ruth, please note their attendance in the minutes.
Thank you.
All right. We have a motion. Where is my regular? A motion to approve minutes for October 5th. Are there any changes to the minutes? If not, can I have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. General comments, Part D, regular items, Part D, general comments on agenda items. Instructions on how to provide public comments are included in the agenda. Staff, have any general comments been received?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Moving on. Comments. At this time, I want to invite the VSAC member comments on items not already on the agenda. For members participating remotely, please utilize the raise hand feature in the Zoom platform, and then remember to unmute your microphone once you are recognized. Do we have any comments from the committee, members of the committee? Okay, nobody. All right, I have a comment. City of Boca had their complete streets policy approved last month. The policy that I written up with the help from the TPA and City of Wellington and a couple other agencies. So we are now a complete street city also. Still no comments. All right, then we'll move on. All right. I'd like to invite Valentina, the VSAC liaison, to provide an update with their liaisons report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for noting that Boca Raton adopted the Complete Streets policy. I was going to say that for a liaison report. So before I go through my liaison report, I'd like to introduce Elijah Brown. He's our new VSAC member that is going to be serving as the alternate for Palm Trans. So Elijah, if you would like to introduce yourself to the group.
Yes, thank you, Valentina. Yes, so I am Elijah Brown, Transit Planner 1 at Palm Tran, and I'm glad to be on the board.
Thank you, Elijah. So first item on the liaison report, we'd like to welcome Margie Tamblin. She's sitting here in the back. She's our new Planner 1 for the multimodal team here for the TPA. So we're really excited to have her. Next, we have our Vision 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan that is still ongoing, and call for projects have actually been extended to December 15th. So if you had not had the opportunity to submit your projects, please coordinate with your staff to get that submitted. We also have some boards on the back where Nathan, our long range transportation coordinator, will be available to answer any questions, or if you have any input, he'll be available for that. Next, the city of Boca Raton adopted a complete streets policy. We're very excited about that, as we're very lucky the TPA had the opportunity to review the complete streets policy and coordinate with the city. So we're very happy to see that go through. I believe that's the 6th municipality within the county that has now an adopted complete streets policy. So we're very, very excited for that. Next, there's a Vision Zero for Youth U.S. Leadership Award. If you are interested in submitting an application for that, they are due December 16th. So for more information, you can visit the visionzeroforyouth.org/awards/US. Next, the Florida Department of Transportation has the Shared Use Non-Motorized, also known as Sun Trail program, that is now open until December 20th. Now, I would like to let you all know that if you would like to apply for that program, your proposed project will need to be in the TPA's list of priority projects. So if you are thinking of submitting an application, please do let us know. You can let me know so that we can get that coordinated. Next, we have the TPA's annual transportation alternatives program that is now open for application submittal until February 16th. During this time, applicants are now able to schedule their own pre-application meeting. This is required. So if you have not done that yet, please visit our website at palmbeachtpa.org/TA to schedule your required pre-application meeting. Next, we have the 2024 Safe Streets Summit. So this is an annual conference that is in collaboration with our 3 counties, because we are one urbanized area: Broward County, Miami-Dade County, and Palm Beach County. All together, we collaborate to do this Safe Streets Summit conference. And for this new year, it'll be February 29th and March 1st at the Intercontinental Miami Hotel. So for more information, you can visit the safestreetsummit.org website. Next, there's the US DOT Grant Navigator tool. If you are looking for any grants, US DOT has that tool where you can find a list of all of the grants that are available. So if you're looking for grants, I would encourage you to visit that website. Next, we have the Road to Zero Community Traffic Safety Grants. Very exciting. Applications are now due February 14th. So please look out for that if you're interested. Next, we have our TPA newsletter. We would encourage everyone to please subscribe for the latest TPA news and updates. If you have not done so already, you can contact me if you have any questions or if you're experiencing any issues with our newsletter as well. And finally, we have our next TPA Governing Board meeting, December 14th at 9 in the morning. You can attend either in person or virtually at palmbeachtpa.org/board. And that concludes my liaison report.
Thank you, Valentina. Staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Do any committee members have any comments or questions on the liaisons report? No, everybody quiet today. Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the action items. Maybe wake everybody up here. Motion to elect officers. I would, pursuant to section 4.3B of the TPA's operating procedures, officers shall be elected annually at the last scheduled meeting of the calendar year. The newly elected officers shall take office at the regularly scheduled meeting of the following calendar year. So first, I would like to open the floor to nominations for the chair. Stephanie Thornburn is currently the chair and wishes to continue. Are there any other nominations for chair? Yeah, she wishes to continue. I think it's her third. I think the 1 year was COVID year or something. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it's
I'm sorry, can you please use your microphone?
Usually the chair is chair for 2 years and then the vice chair moves to chair for 2 years. And that's how we've done it over the years. And I just don't know how many years she's done it, but you're right about it being, if it was a third year, it would be it was COVID year, which we met remotely.
Mhm.
Can we check on that? Yeah, and you guys are doing it.
Gene, is that a rule of the committee here, or is that just been practice?
Just a practice.
Are you looking at that, Valentina? Are you looking,
What's that?
is that what you're looking at?
Yep, we're checking for you all right now. Thank you, Jean. Thank you.
She was appointed in 2018.
As chair?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, 2022.
Okay, then this is 2 years. Then, no, if she's appointed last year,
I would nominate Stephanie to continue in the current role.
okay. If she's only nomination, then I move to vice chair. And Stephanie will remain as chairman.
I'd like to nominate Tracy as the vice chair.
I'll second that.
So to be clear, is Stephanie being nominated as chair?
Yes.
And I'll second that nomination because I don't believe there was a
Okay,
second to that.
so chair, would you, or vice chair, would you like to make a nomination for?
Okay, I
Okay,
nominate
okay.
Stephanie Thornburn for chair for the upcoming year, 2024.
Okay, can we call for a hand vote, please?
We may, since there's only one nominee, do we need one? Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I mean, we can do a hand vote if you want.
Just to check that
Everybody
everyone's
wants
okay with this.
Stephanie.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
all right. So Stephanie will be our chair again next year. Okay, good. So now I open the floor to nominations for vice chair. I am currently vice chair and I would be interested in continuing to serve this capacity. Unless there's any other nominations.
Well, I nominated you, David seconded, right?
I think Bruce did for
Bruce
Tracy.
second, or Tracy, okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, then I will accept. I guess we'll call for a hand vote. He is vice chair again for 2024. All right, then I guess I am the vice chair for 2024. So I believe. Do I need to do anything else?
That's all. Thank you.
Make sure these elections are fair and there's no controversy. So. Yeah. All right, then we'll move on. If that is the only, actually, that's the only action item. It's good. So we'll move on to informational items. And I'd like to invite Nathan George, Long Range Transportation Coordinator, to present this item. Where's Nathan? I seen him. Oh, he's took his hat off or his ears or whatever he had on.
Sorry, I didn't realize, there we go. I didn't realize my name was going to be included in the agenda. So actually, we have FDOT here to present this item. So I'm going to invite the FDOT team up and they'll give this presentation to you and
Okay.
Nathan George for the record.
Thank you, Nathan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are here. Thank you for the opportunity for us to give this presentation to you. My name is Hong Benitez. I am the project manager at the Florida Department of Transportation. And today's presentation is 2 PD&E studies. But the entire stretch is from just south of Lincoln Boulevard to Okeechobee Boulevard. I am the project manager for the I am the project manager for the southern segment that is from Lincoln Boulevard to just north of 6th Avenue South. And then the northern segment is from 6th Avenue South to Okeechobee Boulevard. And this presentation, and then for the northern segment, the project manager from FDOT is Vanita Saini. And we are also represented by our consultant. The southern segment, the consultant is from Stantec, and the PM is Gabriel Perez. He's with me today. And then for the northern segment, the consultant is AECOM, and the PM is there behind me, Julio Buclé. This presentation will serve as a kickoff of these 2 projects. And we're going to, actually, we did 2 presentations yesterday. So we are doing the same presentation for TAC, CAC, VZAC, and the board. The purpose of this presentation is to introduce the 2 PD&E studies and then to inform the TPA on FDOT's project delivery process. We want to introduce the project limits of the 2 PD&Es and then to provide some project background information. Also, I would like to, we are going to explain why a PD&E study is needed. Also to present to you the PD&E process you know, as part of it is the engineering assessment, environmental assessment, and the public involvement efforts. Also, we're going to provide you with the project schedule and contact information. FDOT deliver transportation projects. Usually it takes 6 phases. It's a 6-phase process. The first phase is planning. For this project, this planning study was conducted as I-95 master lane, managed lanes master plan, which preliminary evaluation was completed during the year of 2019. The planning study led to the PD&E studies. That's these 2 right now that we're presenting today. And after the PD&E study, we're going to move on to design. After that is, you know, if right-of-way is needed, we're going to move on to right-of-way acquisition, and then construction, then followed by the facility maintenance. Before we get going with the project background, I would just like to explain a little bit about the managed lanes. It's a pretty busy slide. I'm just going to read out 1 paragraph, the big one. Managed lanes are an innovative solution to congestion management. They are usually newly constructed travel lanes with access limited to specific vehicle classes by a toll or vehicle volume. And managed lanes are highway facilities or a set of lanes where operational strategies are proactively implemented and managed in response to changing traffic conditions. So the benefit of having managed lanes, really, it is to provide the roadway users with a additional transportation choice. And then also, by using that, the drivers will have a more predictable travel time. Also, you know, because managing the traffic congestion, it will in turn lead to less fuel consumption and air pollution. Also, managed lanes will also provide transit agencies with a potential new corridor because buses are allowed on managed lane. I'm going to go over a little bit of the master plan, the I-95 master lane, managed lane master plan. To the right on the screen is the project limits. It starts from Linton Boulevard to the all the way to the Martin County line. I-95 is designated as a strategic intermodal system facility. You know, in short, we call it SIS system, as well as National Highway System facility. It also an emergency evacuation route. So during 2019, the master plan completed, and we looked at identifying long-term capacity needs along I-95 within this limit. It considers several managed lane concepts and way to address segment operating below the acceptable levels of service for a SIS facility. This is the existing typical section. It's actually current typical section. It is with 2 HOV lanes inside by the red arrow, 1 in each direction. Just want to mention that HOV lanes is a type of managed lane. And then also we have 8 general use lanes, that is 4 in each direction. And by the blue arrow, that's the auxiliary lanes. Usually it is between interchanges. The proposed master plan analysis resulted in the selection of a typical section, as you can see here. And what it resulted with is 4 managed lanes, 2 in each direction. The general use lanes are not changed, 4 in each direction. And then also, the auxiliary lanes that did not change. The typical section, this typical section has moved forward into the PD&E phases. So during the PD&E phase, this is the time for a more refined analysis for this configuration, and any improvements or changes to the proposed concept will happen during this PD&E phase. During the master plan phase, a traffic analysis was conducted. FDOT has coordinated with agencies in order to establish preliminary ingress and egress locations. If you just look at the middle and right blocks, and then you see the ingress are represented by a blue arrow, and then the egress is represented by a red arrow. And it's in and out of the managed lanes. These locations will be reevaluated, use our updated traffic information, and we will be coordinating with the stakeholders, elected officials, local agencies, and affected municipalities during our PD&E study. During the master plan phase, a robust coordination was conducted and included many stakeholders listed here. And we're going to be, during our PD&E, we're going to be reaching out once again, to all the stakeholders within our current PD&E project limits, and then to ensure that we receive the feedback necessary to achieve project consensus. And then in turn, we can deliver a successful projects. The first 2 studies that came out of the master plan are here. On the left is the southern segment, to the right is the northern segment. The southern segment is from Linton Boulevard, again, to just north of 6th Avenue South. And then the northern segment, it is from continuing from 6th Avenue South to Okeechobee Boulevard. And then these 2 studies will traverse the following cities and municipalities, includes Delray Beach, Boynton Beach, Lantana, Lake Worth Beach, Lake Clark Shores, Glen Ridge, Cloud Lake, and West Palm Beach. And now I'm going to give the presentation to Gabriel, and then he's going to further discuss the PD&E.
Good morning, everybody. So as Hong mentioned earlier, the FDOT transportation delivery process is it's completed in 6 steps. The first phase, as you mentioned, was the master plan. That's what's feeding into these PD&E studies. So currently we're at the PD&E, and the purpose of a PD&E is to look at the different engineering alternatives, evaluate their environmental impacts, and then comply with state, local, and federal laws and regulations. And then to secure funding sources for the further phases of the project. During the planning and through agency coordination, the objectives of the PD&E have been established, and those are to increase capacity to meet the future travel demand, enhance the connectivity of the corridor, assess operational and safety needs, and then we'll be coordinating with the different multimodal agencies, the airport, Tri-Rail, PalmTran, and so on. The PD&E study process begins at the data collection phase. We're currently in that data collection phase, about to complete it, and we're going to be moving into the concept alternatives. That'll be followed by a more in-depth engineering and environmental analysis. alternatives refinement, and then ultimately, the final documents, which is when we complete the, environmental and engineering, reports. Agency coordination and public engagement, that is, continuous from the planning phase all the way through construction. So it's obviously a very, important part of the PD&E process. We're going to be going to the public several times, but up here we're touching on two milestone meetings, the alternatives public workshop, where we present the concepts as well as the environmental impacts of those concepts, and then the public hearing where we present the final recommended alternative. From an engineering standpoint, we'll be looking at roadway geometry. We'll be assessing the capacity needs of the corridor, safety, as well, and traffic operations. Adding impervious, adding a lane is going to result in the need to reassess the drainage. We'll be looking at structures and then evaluating the ingress and egress access points to the managed lanes. Right-of-way requirements will also be considered, and we'll be looking to avoid or minimize any right-of-way impacts. And then we always look at the preservation of existing resources as well. The environmental assessment looks at both natural and the social environments along the corridor. We'll be looking to avoid, minimize, and mitigate all environmental impacts. Noise is always a big concern, and we're going to be evaluating the noise along the corridor as well. Public involvement, again, as I mentioned, is one of the most important phases of the PD&E. We do want to achieve consensus. Public impact, public input is critical. We're going to be going to the public several times, alternatives workshop and public hearing, both in person and virtual, to give everybody an opportunity to participate. We're going to be meeting with elected officials, different agencies, and the many stakeholders listed on the right. We're also launching a project website where the public can go in to review documents. As they get updated, they get uploaded into the website, and they can gather information on the project, and they can also provide feedback and voice their concerns through that platform. That's going to be launching rather soon, hopefully before the end of the year. The southern PD&E, as Hong mentioned, begins at Linton Boulevard. That is where the current Phase 3B is of the managed lanes is supposed to end, and extending all the way to north of 6th Avenue South. It traverses the 4 municipalities shown here on the screen, and there's a total of 8 interchanges within the study limits. This PD&E study is not going to be looking at the interchange improvements or arterial improvements crossing the corridor. It's strictly evaluating I-95. So there'll be no impacts to the surface streets. There's current design projects ongoing or construction projects in some cases along these interchanges. We'll be coordinating closely with them, but we will not be impacting those interchanges. The northern PD&E study picks up where the southern PD&E study ends. So just north of 6th Avenue South, and we'll continue on through Okeechobee Boulevard. This one traverses the 5 municipalities shown on the screen, and there's 6 interchanges within the study area. This PD&E will consider and evaluate improvements at 2 of the interchanges. So Southern Boulevard and Belvedere will be evaluated as part of this project. So currently, the 2 PD&Es are running concurrently, right? We started the PD&Es at the same time. We're scheduled to finish at the same time, but it's 2 distinct projects. So there is a chance that the schedules can change and that the projects can run a slightly different course throughout the life of the study. The studies began in spring of 2013. We're currently doing the project kickoffs to the TPA and the subcommittees, and we're going to be sending a newsletter or fact sheets to the public following this meeting to kind of announce the project to the public. The alternative workshop mentioned earlier is scheduled for the summer of 2024, and the public hearing would be for spring of 2025. And then we're looking to complete the studies by the fall of 2025. Both projects, the southern and the northern PD&Es, are funded for design in the year 2027, currently unfunded for construction. And then the aforementioned improvements at the State Road 80 interchange are design funded for 2026, but also unfunded for construction.
Gabriel has Gabriel has just mentioned that these two are two separate projects. And so we have two sets of contact teams. So I will be the contact for the southern portion. And then you have, you can read these at your leisure. And then the northern portion, the PM is Vanita Saini. And that is listed as her contact information. This is pretty much what we have, is a brief presentation for these two PDNE projects. And as we have the Vision Zero, we always want to leave the safety message with everyone attending. So since the holiday seasons are here, and then we would like to remind everybody to do not do the driving under the influence. And I would like to thank you again. Again, this is a kickoff presentation, very short, very brief, background information presentation. And if you have any questions or concerns, we're going to do our best to address your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, looks like got some comments from the committee. Do we have any committee members? Do any of the committee members have any comments? Looks like we do. Bruce?
I have a couple of questions. First, you said the extent of these two projects goes up to just around Okeechobee.
Just
on the
north
north?
of Okeechobee.
Okay. Previously, in one of those screens, it's mentioned something about going to the Martin County line.
Yes. Okay, because there is a separate PDNE study. It will pick up from north of Okeechobee and go to the county line.
Is that
However-
happening concurrently to
No,
this?
no, that one is going to happen in the future.
Okay,
Because the way, if you think about construction, so this one actually gonna go from the south towards north.
Mhm.
And then if you consider all the, segments into it, so that one has been postponed, not to say postponed, it's left for the future. Right now, it's not currently programmed.
okay. My other question was, in your data collection, have you looked at how this type of managed lane project, this type of managed lane project is working in Broward and Miami-Dade counties?
Broward is fairly new. I know there are a lot of locations along I-95 are being constructed.
Mhm.
And there is one piece that is in Palm Beach County that is south of Linton Boulevard. It has been constructed, is completed. Miami-Dade County has several locations that has managed lane projects. Generally, I found it personally because I use it every day. I drive from Miami to work in West Broward. I find it very useful. And then just one thing to mention is that not managed lane not necessarily mean a toll. We will coordinate with Turnpike because Turnpike is the one that manages all the toll facilities. So the toll facilities will be constructed. So just in case in the future something was to happen, and right now I do not know, but we will construct a facility. In addition to that, the other key point of managed lanes actually is the ingress egress locations.
Mhm.
So we will do the preliminary analysis was performed during master plan. So they have identified certain locations for in and out of the managed lanes. But those locations are depending on the traffic volume. So we have actually have updated a traffic analysis. And all these are going to be included in the PD&E study and to further refine and determine the access points.
I understand all that, but my question was more towards the point of whether or not these managed lanes in Broward and Miami-Dade County have provided any benefit.
It
Have
does, it does.
They have published studies of how it's eased traffic or
You know, like, I cannot point you to a study report as it now, but I can tell you, I use it.
Mhm.
I like it
I do
because,
too.
because I travel far. And then I think that is a choice for some people to make, that you do not have to get off, if you can skip a few interchanges, it is always a good thing. And then also that relieves the traffic congestion on the general purpose lanes.
To further answer your question, yes, we looked at it. We looked at the experiences in Miami-Dade and Broward County throughout the years. There is an annual report that it is online that offers more inside information about the operations and the way the managed lanes are working out. You realize when you build a managed lane, you are adding capacity. It is like Hong is saying, it is a choice you have. Then the number of general use lanes stay the same, and you would remove a certain number of vehicles that will use the managed lanes like it does. So it increases capacity on the general use lanes, the ones that we don't pay, and also, offers a choice. If you need to use it on a regular basis, you have to use it occasionally, like going to an event, going to a meeting, like I did today. Got here late, but I was using managed lanes to come over, and and that's one of the beautiful things about it. The other question that you had was in reference to the segment to the north. Let me go back to that for a second. The master plan was for 38 miles long, okay? And at the end, it was segmented into 3 different PD&E, which stand for Project Development and Environmental Studies. The 2 that we're doing now, the southern segment, middle segment, will be followed by a northern segment that takes all the way to the county line. But it is unfunded, at this moment. So it will come into the near future.
All right. Jean.
Can you pull up the slide that shows where the in and outs are? Because that's one of the things that's thrown me, is that when I go south in Broward, I get in the second or third lane, all of a sudden I realize I've got to watch for traffic merging from the left, when the lane changes. So I think the placement of that is critical. And 2, have the number of accidents gone down in Broward and Dade County since the implementation of these lanes?
I do not have that information. We can go do some research on that. That information I do not have. But when you say you go in and out, you see the lanes change.
Yeah.
That is at the location of the ingress egress?
Is the purple, right?
The purple or the blue? There's a blue and a red. The color is off. The blue is in, the red is out.
Okay, because that's one of the things I think the placement of that is critical, because especially if people know they have to get off at Boynton, they have to realize where they're getting off, where they're getting out of the lane, say, if they're heading north.
So to answer that question, normally when we look at these ingress and egress points, we provide sufficient distance from the entrance to the highway to the entrance of the express lanes. It could be 1,000 feet per lane, and it's looked at with the traffic. But the idea is that any vehicle getting on that wants to, any vehicle getting into the main line that wants to access the managed lanes, or vice versa, you're getting out of the managed lanes to get into an exit, they need to be provided sufficient distance to accommodate that weave and give them a chance to get into that. So that is something that is considered. Yeah, signage as well. We also look at signing to make sure that the signage is clear, that there's no conflicting messages, that there's no blockage of the signage. So all of that is factored into the design to ensure the safe access to the roads and to the ramps.
Can you pull up the slide that shows the added pavement and the configuration of the lanes? Okay, so if you're in one of the managed lanes and you break down, is there sufficient room to pull to the left and get out of the flow of traffic?
You mean to enter or to exit management?
Okay, so you're in the managed lane and you're in the left managed lane and all of a sudden you blow a tire. Is there a shoulder on the left?
You can see there is a full width shoulder.
And that's for the entire length of the project?
We're at least we are, that is our effort to make sure that we do have pinch points. They can explain this.
So-
We do have some pinch points.
So the standard, the FDOT standard for an inside shoulder on this type of facilities is 12 feet, which is sufficient to accommodate the width of a car, which might be about 6 feet, about 6 feet. So it provides a sufficient width for a car to pull over and be able to provide, when the road rangers or whoever needs to provide the support can provide the support. If your concern is what they had down in Miami, what happened in Miami was that it was a pilot project. The right of way was really constrained. And so you get very narrow shoulders along the inside. Even the lanes have been narrowed in some cases from 12 to 11 feet. In this case, we will have ample right of way to provide a fully standard typical section in general throughout. There are some pinch points in some of the interchanges where we'll evaluate some reductions in the width, but those again would just be pinch points. If somebody breaks down, they should be able to get to the shoulder either on the express lane shoulder on the inside or the general use lane shoulder on the outside.
So the project in essence is providing 2 more lanes going north and 2 more lanes going south, more asphalt, 4 more lanes.
One more lane.
1 more lane.
One more lane in each direction.
When do you expect to commence construction, starting around by Linton going north, and how long will the construction last?
Well, the construction at this time is unfunded. Design is funded for 2027, but that's still something that's at play.
Thank you.
These are going to be very big projects. So at this point, we do not even know how we're going to, what delivery method, meaning standard design bid build or design build. So it has to be after that point, we're going to know more or less, we can have an estimated construction time.
Okay, David?
One more clarification to your question. The way the projects will be constructed is not exactly the way the PD&Es are segmented. So at the end of the PD&E, basically we will recommend the segmentation for design and construction. And the northern segment is 6.5 miles. Most likely you will have 2, even 3 segments. And the interchange with Southern Boulevard by itself will be a project, because that's huge. And then we have direct connect ramps from I-95 to Southern Boulevard and back. So that's important to know, because a lot of people get confused saying, you're gonna have all 6 miles going at the same time. No, it's not.
Okay. David?
I was just wondering, you said none of the interchanges are going to be involved with these projects. Are there any bridges over 90? Since you're adding 2 more lanes, are there any bridges that are too short and going to have to be replaced?
You got it. Actually, you're talking about the southern, my segment, because
I'm talking about any segment, like
no, okay, all
because
of
we're
them.
pedestrian and bicycle.
Basically, we're not, if we're saying we're not touching a specific interchange, it's because that interchange has done its individual PD&E as part of the master plan. And then they went through design. So some of them, so they are in different phases. Maybe they're ending their PD&E, they're going to, they're during design, or some of them are, started the construction. I know 6th Avenue right now is under construction. So all these interchanges are taken care of. So when we're in between these interchanges, we do not touch the interchange projects, the bridges. You know, if they need widening, if they need replacement, if they need lengthen, they're done in separate projects. But between the interchanges, we have other bridges.
That's
And
that's what I'm
those-
talking about. Any bridges.
And
yes.
those, we are going to look at them, every single one of them, what we need to do.
But I'm
during-
bringing this up because I drive the turnpike and, you know, they have to close the turnpike down for periods whenever they're putting up the new bridges and it's closed entirely. I'm wondering how they're going to do this for 95.
They will have to do by phases, and then you need to, what's going to happen is right now, we're only adding one lane. So I think the typical, we're going to do the MOT, the maintenance of traffic. So we can do it by phases. So we're gonna add a piece and then join them together. There are a lot of things can be done during,
Yeah.
for these creative designers and construction.
Yeah. The detailed maintenance of traffic plan will come at a later date. We'll look at maintenance of traffic at a higher level. In general, like Hong was mentioning, all of the interchange bridges over I-95 are going to remain untouched. So you won't get a case where they're building a bridge over I-95 and there's going to be closure. Now, when you're putting up certain sign structures, toll gantries and so on, you do need to close for a short period. Usually it's done, non-peak, 1 a.m. I've been out to some sites where they're putting it up at like 2 a.m. in the morning, putting the truss. So in those cases, there wouldn't be a disruption to, there's the general everyday traffic. It would be something a little bit more coordinated. There'd be detours and stuff provided as well. But the bridge question, no bridge over I-95 is anticipated to be replaced. We're going to be, they've been already improved and will, only the widening, the bridges on I-95 may be widened and you don't need to close I-95 for.
Okay. Well, I mean, I kind of saw it as an opportunity to maybe put in some bicycle pedestrian stuff too, if you're putting in a new bridge, but if you're not putting any new bridges in, I guess there's no opportunity.
Sorry.
Yes and no, yes and no. You got cases where the I-95 is under, the bridge, okay? Flowing under the bridge. So you have to attain certain vertical clearance in between, the paving and the lower member of the bridge. And we'll bring that information back to you all later when we get to that point. We'll be back, a number of times to present the project as we make progress. So I think it's 16 and a half feet. That's the minimum vertical clearance. If it happens to be that, based on the widening, the expansion, we do not achieve that vertical clearance at a certain location, then we have to see what we can do with the bridge. It could be jacking up the bridge if it is only a few inches, or it could be just replacing the structure. So in the case of a replacement of the structure, then all the type of complete street improvements can be recommended.
Okay.
So yeah, this is a process that takes typically 2 years to complete, and a lot of uncertainties. A lot of things will come up and flow into the process as we tag along. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Marty?
I have a few questions. Basically what we're talking about, I know your objective is to keep the lane width at 12 feet. You want to provide additional lane. And you're saying you most likely don't want to be able to touch the bridges or anything. Isn't some contradiction over here? I mean, how could you add lanes and not impact bridges? And how would you do that and not even coordinate to the project going on right now? I mean, would you spend millions of dollars now doing a bridge and having to reconstruct it down the road? Why shouldn't there be some kind of coordination at this level?
The current interchange projects, the bridges are going to be widened to accommodate that typical section. So I was talking about, all those interchanges, the bridges we're not touching is because it is already designed and will be built to that width to accommodate this. But what we are going to widen are the bridges, that does not have, it's not on a interchange. Maybe it is on a different street, or maybe even a drainage structure, a canal, some kind of thing. So those are the ones that we're going to most likely, we're going to check the current condition, and then we're going to widen it to make sure that we can have enough width to accommodate. The pinch point might just come from these locations.
Okay. I have two more questions. I'm familiar with technical analysis for the widening. In fact, when I worked with AECOM, I created the model, the vessel model, all the way from Miami to Linton for all the interchanges. However, traffic have changed quite a bit, and typically we look at historical data. How are you addressing that we have a new situation right now that may not be reflected in historical traffic data?
We do have new, we have two sets of, we're in data collection, and then we have two sets of traffic analysis. There, when we did the master plan, that was done, completed way back. And then, so for us to do the PD&E, we have a new traffic analysis. So we're going to address that. What your question was, you were asking after it is done?
I mean, traffic right now is not reflected in what we had in the past 5 years. I mean, we went through COVID.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that, the current, at least the past 2 years, Florida has had way more traffic than before. It's because typically DOT like to use certified traffic data, which is usually much older than what's current, and hopefully, we can account for that.
Usually it is, right now we have, it's pretty up to date. They usually take 5 years, right? 5-year traffic, and then they do the projection. And to account for possible growth, population growth, user growth. So
And
that's how they.
My final question is, those two segments, especially the north segment, you're dealing with an extremely congested corridor. And construction time is extremely important for us. I mean, if something you could do in 6 months, you do it in 5 years, it's going to create a huge, I'm hoping that whatever you learn from the construction, from the management lane that you've done in Miami and Broward, you put a premium on shortening the construction time, because again, we have to deal with the impact of that.
That is part of our, it's not going to be, that is not going to be decided by the PD&E. Usually that is in coordination with the design and construction office. What happened is, generally speaking, if you do design build, it goes faster. And so especially at some critical locations, and very often we use, they call it the alternative construction methods. So then basically we're talking about design build.
Yeah.
So
lessons learned would be the answer to that. So yeah, it's built upon. And by the way, that's a good question probably about the traffic. The traffic used for the master plan was pre-COVID, 2015 traffic. Now 8 years later, we have a new set of data to reanalyze, and that also affects the in and out points, ingress and egress point. That probably, I mean, it could slide up or down a little bit, but we did a market analysis at the time, based on volumes, origin, destination, all that good stuff. So that will have to be looked at again, see how it goes. As you know, the managed lanes are for long haul travel. They're not intended to be like interchange to interchange access. So, it's part of it. And we'll have to look at it again.
All right, Kyle.
Yeah, I guess, adding these managed lanes, theoretically, one of your lanes would have been like an HOV lane, and then you're adding an additional lane, correct? It would take the place of that. So, I mean, I've drove in those lanes and my experience is the traffic is always significantly less in those managed lanes. So you're adding a lane to, something that already has significantly less traffic and essentially leaving the rest the same. Is it more beneficial just to add an additional lane over here where there's more traffic? Did you do that analysis?
Just the thought of it, to merge 6 lanes out to exit, that itself is dangerous. But what it is right now in this segment, it is a HOV. HOV, it does have a, because I think a lot of time people may not understand that HOV has time limits. So then there are certain people, they are afraid to get into it. Yes, they are, because during the daytime, when you're outside of the 2 hour in the morning, 2 hour in the afternoon, and there are a whole bunch of people, they're just driving next to it. They will not get into it to use it because they didn't know. They just see HOV 2 passengers minimum. So this one has 1 that says, I cannot go in. There are situations like that. And then also, I think just simply make it wider. It creates the weaving, I mean, you cannot stop anyone to get on from this interchange and want to get out from next one, but the left one moves the fastest. So the more weaving you have, the more conflicts you have, the more dangerous it is. I mean, every time you have to switch lane, you are at risk. You just got to be really careful.
Oh, I agree with you. But my experience has been when I'm down south and I'm driving in those managed lanes, people weave in and out of the managed lanes as well. So you've just moved the issue.
Yeah, I do not use the I-95. I use the one on Palmetto. And then I can tell you that Palmetto managed lane is used to its limits.
I don't know. I'm just, and it seems like it would create a pinch point at every overpass along.
It helps when you travel far. I mean, there are, depending on the highway system, some of them, the interchanges are very close to each other. So it makes a lot of sense to have a managed lane for the people that they're going to, they're in a long haul. It helps.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. First, I want to clear something up as far as as far as David's question about maintenance, traffic, closing bridges and so when they did the part through Boca, we had some closures where we had to have some detours but they were all done late at night from 11 to 5 and where we had to detour traffic. They also had rolling roadblocks when they had to set beams. So that I assume that's the type of stuff they'll do.
Yeah, I saw the closures on the turnpike. The turnpike has significantly less traffic than the I-95 does. And so, I mean, it was just a question to pose. I mean, I was more interested in if there were going to be new bridges, they'd be opportunities for us to do pedestrian and bike facilities. So,
I mean,
Understood.
they are doing new interchanges because I know there's some DDIs going in, but I think what they're saying is they're not part of this project. So I think that's going to be something like Yamato Road, Spanish River interchange. That interchange was done before the 3B and that interchange was done to accommodate 3B. So I assume all the interchange work will be something similar to that. I got a couple questions. One is the scheduling. I've only been down there in the 8.5, 9 years. But it seemed to be like after one section from the south would get towards the end and the section to the north would start. That's kind of how it's worked through northern Broward and up to the southern part of Palm Beach County. We started, 3B started. The section in Broward County was to Palmetto Park Road was still going on, was coming close to ending. So there seemed to be some nice overlap there. Now 3B is coming to an end and we haven't even started a PD&E study. So there's going to be a huge overlap from 3B to when this one starts. You're probably 5 years. So what's the delay in the scheduling there? Is it funding?
Always.
Yeah. So it is funding. Okay. It just, I mean, it seems like they were doing a great job overlapping projects and we just go from one section to the other, but now we're gonna have a big delay between projects. So I
Yeah.
was.
We
my-
request funding every year.
Yeah, my boss had told me, he was here yesterday and he told me about it and I was kind of shocked because for the delay. How much are you reducing the border width with this proposed typical section?
Not, there might be, you talk.
The border width is typically measured from the, I believe from the inside of the edge of pavement, but
Traveling, yeah.
yeah, exactly, the travel lane to use a less
Mhm.
technical term. But basically, we're widening 9 to 13 feet. That would be the reduction in border width, assuming we're not gonna take right away, which is the goal.
Right, okay. I think you said you had a public hearing scheduled for in the summer.
I was trying to like pan to the
2025.
And
yeah, I think it's summer 2025.
does that mean the PDER and the PAA would be done sometime early this year or 2024?
Yeah. The what, I'm sorry?
The PDER and the PAA?
Well, the PER will should be at least a solid draft by the public hearing because it's put on display for the public to review.
Right.
So all of the important documents, the environmental documents, the PER, those will be available. They should be available for the public hearing. At least a draft version, because then we need to take the feedback from the public. It's still not final at public hearing. Take the feedback from the public, and then that has to be documented in those reports as well.
Is the fee structure going to be different from up here in Palm Beach County than it is in Broward or Dade? Such as, I don't know.
The tolling, you mean?
Yeah, the toll fees, yeah.
It's not established at this time that it would be told, but I'll leave that question for.
That is, the toll is always determined by Turnpike.
Okay.
Turnpike is the one that manages the whole thing.
Mhm.
And then they have their own sets of requirements.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. Anybody else? Joanne.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you for the presentation. I just personally am not a huge fan of managed lanes. I don't have any technical studies and I don't use them very often, but in my anecdotal experience, it doesn't really seem to relieve congestion. It allows the people that have the privilege to pay to be able to go faster, and it has a disproportionate impact on lower income households. But it seems like this is a direction that FDOT is going, and I guess my first question is, I think I remember seeing these stickers. I don't know if it's still an active program where if you have a registered carpool, like a high occupancy vehicle, that's you can use.
That is still free.
It's still
Buses,
free.
yeah, buses
Okay.
are free.
Okay.
High occupancy, the carpools are free.
Okay, so they'll still be able to use the managed lanes for
Yes.
free. Okay, that's
Yes,
good.
and then also that is one of the, we were talking about the multimodal, the transit needs,
Mhm.
so they can use that, school buses and then all that.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. And then number two, do you have data on annual revenue from these managed lanes? And then what does that revenue go toward?
I do not know, because not all managed lanes are tolled.
Sure, but a lot of them
So,
are.
yeah, a lot of them are, and then how much the toll is going to be, that's more of a policy determination. We really, I mean, from design side, we're not involved.
I understand that.
traffic
How
operation
much
side.
is not your, but what does the money go towards? That's my
Go
question.
towards,
And if there's any way that that funding can go towards the things that we work toward on this board, I would love to advocate for that. More alternative transportation, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, that type of thing.
I always feel a lot of time these are, just for a example in Miami-Dade County. I think they always fight tooth and nails to try to keep the tolls in Miami-Dade. So it is always, it is going to be the coordination between the agencies. If Palm Beach, it is really a coordination way above me.
Mhm. Well, if there's any opportunity for us to kind of provide support for that revenue to go towards these principles, I would love to find out more about that. That's it.
It's that one, just so that you know, that part is way too early.
Understood, but we're discussing the concept.
Until
So.
you see those things standing there, they're, I really cannot answer that question.
Thank you.
I'm probably gonna butcher your name. Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My main question and concern is for the additional pavement that's that will possibly be constructed. I know we've been getting worse and worse storms and higher just rain events going on. As we install, I think it's about like 15 miles from Linton to Okeechobee, maybe give or take a mile or two. Has a better drainage system even been thought about, or is it still premature?
We have to, that's going to be part of the study, the PD&E analysis.
Okay.
And part of the design for sure, because that's one thing we will have to look at the current drainage system capacity. And then if it is not enough, we're going to design for it.
And for the segments, I know this is for the current segments, the north and the south here in Palm Beach. But I know that with the managed lanes just south from Congress going south to Broward County, I know we added extra pavement there. Was the drainage there also improved? Because as it's been raining, I feel like there's been more flooding just around the 95 areas and just getting off of it.
Specific locations, I am not too sure. But I know for this project, every time when they ask me if they want to allow to something else, and I told them no.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna add, every project considers drainage. No project is gonna add impervious and not account for that in the drainage. Now, depends on where you're seeing the flooding. If you're seeing the flooding on the roadway, that could be a potential issue. But you may be seeing the flooding along the side, and that's just part of the drainage. It could just be a wet pond, or even a dry pond. Just the retention time may take a little while for it to clear out, to treat. But is all projects take into account additional impervious and treatment of that other runoff.
And drainage always take into account both quantity and quality. Okay, both are measured and taken care of typically.
Thank you.
Joanne, you got another question? You're just one quick question. Joanne kind of brought up. This whole South Florida managed lanes. It isn't an I-4 ultimate, is it? Whether it's public-private, or is it public-private partnership like I-4 alternate in Orlando was? This is all DOT and Turnpike.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
I-95. It's a.
Well, yeah, I-4 is a federal interstate too, but they still did a public-private
This is a federal funds.
partnership. So, okay,
We're trying to get federal funds. Otherwise, we don't have enough money.
okay. Oh, all right.
I have one more question, and that is, I think the point is well taken. Many people don't like managed lanes, especially when there's like less traffic in there and it's for people who can afford to pay. And if everything was opened other than the HOV lane during certain hours, it might ease congestion in the non-traffic lanes. Has a benefit analysis been done, because might it be worth it to have more travel lanes that are unrestricted to let the majority, the vast majority of the people have more room to maneuver versus people who can pay and want to be in the long distance lane? That's my, like, is it like accidents drop by 80% and, you know, we get 20% more cars? I mean, what is the logistics to make sense?
I am sure we have, I'm sorry. I'm sure we have studies to support managed lanes. And then, but what your question kind of goes back with Kyle's question. That is one thing, is if you simply make the road wider, it's not safe. You know, you just create a lot more conflicts. So, and then I really want to, yesterday, actually, when I went home, I drove on I-95. And then I was driving on the HOV lanes, but there are so many people not coming in. And I was thinking, you know, I cannot drag them in. I want them to know this is the time you can use it.
If that's all the comments, we want to appreciate you coming in. Oh, Claudia's got one more.
I think the benefit of a managed lane is then you can vary the toll to make sure you get the right capacity every time.
If I may just
We ain't gonna
add,
let you leave.
if I may just add, I think having better signage to express the times could help the public understand. I remember when I first moved down here and I didn't understand the times on the HOV lanes. And when I learned, I was like, this is great. But better signage would help people understand.
I think, you know, one of these issues might even be language related. I had a nightmare experience, and then in an Uber, this person could not read a sign. You know, so there's sometimes it is just that education definitely is needed. You know, a lot of time that, you know, the people need to be educated. But it is unfortunate a lot of time that, you know, it is not fully used. I know that.
All right. That looks like all the Valentina.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to ask if we could give our stance, TPA stance on toll revenues. I think Andrew Euler, Deputy Director of Programs.
You may.
Thank you, Andrew Euler, TPA. The discussion involving toll revenue collections for managed lanes and what that can be used for, that is something that the TPA has been tracking for some time, right? So it's been direction by the committees and then also the governing board in our strategic plan to see how that funding could be utilized. And that discussion is not just happening in our county, it's happening with in Southeast Florida with Broward and Miami-Dade as well. And so the statutes are clear on what that money can be spent on. So if we were to have toll lane revenues, the first thing it goes towards is paying back bonds, the construction of that. Second is the operations and maintenance of that facility. And then down the list after that, if there's additional funds available, it has the potential to be used for public transit facilities that benefit the managed lanes in that system. So that's something that we would be looking at into the future about, for example, funding the bus rapid transit or express bus routes on the facility, or even looking into more eligibility of other types of improvements, such as operations for trial extension and all that. So it's something on our radar and we'll continue to monitor it. And then, you know, obviously it's down the road about how that's going to play out, but it is something we're on top of.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you too early. Oh. No.
All right, moving on. I'd like to invite Andrew back up. The Director of Programs to present a federal listing of obligated projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, good morning, everyone. So this is a required publication of every metropolitan plan organization in the country. This is the final federal obligations for the prior fiscal year. So when a fiscal year wraps up in our transportation improvement program, so our last fiscal year was 2023, we're now in 2024. But we would get a report from FDOT, and it goes to every MPO about what was obligated for federal funds in the prior fiscal year. And so we have a 5-year transportation improvement program. And again, that fiscal year 2023 has a programming of federal and state funds in that TIP. And that is basically our request or the state's requests to spend those funds. And so when a product gets obligated, that's the commitment for that to be reimbursed up to that specific product amount. And so when a product manager submits that request to FHWA and FTA, it's looked at to ensure that it's noted in the TIP, it's noted in the state's transportation improvement program, and then there's a commitment there to reimburse that. Sometimes those obligations do get de-obligated, so there's an obligation, so they can start drawing down those funds, but they may not draw down all the funds based on a change in the funding type, or maybe there's a delay or a cancellation of the project. So there might be some de-obligations, and you'll see those as negatives in the report. For this obligation report for federal funds in fiscal year 2023, we're talking about $112 million of that funding amount. Statewide, the federal transportation funds makes up about 25% of the total transportation budget. So we aren't dealing with any of the state funding or local funding. It's really just that $112 million that we had obligated in fiscal year 2023. And then you'll find that the transportation improvement program and what was programmed for federal funds may differ, either be more or less than what was actually obligated. And there's a few reasons why that might be the case. The first one is product phases may not have been completed and moved to a current fiscal year. You'll see, for example, State Road 7 was a good case for that, where it may have been programmed, it was programmed in fiscal year 2023 for construction with some federal funds on it and state funds. And then that product was delayed to an outer year, right? So it appeared and programmed in the TIP for fiscal year 2023. Nothing was obligated for federal funds because that product was delayed. So you'll find products like that where maybe the phase was delayed or part of the phase to a different fiscal year. There's also times when FDOT might be swapping state and federal funds around, depending on their needs and trying to balance the work program. And lastly, and this one's becoming more and more prevalent, and that's why I want to mention it, is that Florida also uses state funds. And if you ever look in the work program or our transportation improvement program, there's a lot of product funding codes that start with AC, meaning advanced construction. And so what they're doing there is basically there's a pot of money that the state utilizes to put towards projects. So it's state funds, but they are setting it up where it's federalized projects. And if there's any additional funds available at the federal government level to draw down, the state's in line to receive those funds. So they're looking to pay themselves back of those state funds with federal funds down the road. So what will happen with that is you might find a major I-95 project or an interchange project has advanced construction national highway funds that were programmed and obligated state funds in like 2021. And then that was finally reimbursed in 2023. So that would never show in our TIP because we're not tracking that from like our current program amounts, but it's just the state reimbursing themselves in a later year. All that's really hard to sort of showcase in this document. It really just shows you the federal funds and if there's obligations or de-obligations. So if there's any specifics on any projects, I'd be happy to answer those questions or try to get the answer for you. Here's my final slide for you. It's a summary of what it looks like for fiscal year 2023, what was programmed in TIP, what was obligated, and the difference there. And then if there's any de-obligations. So it doesn't really tell you the full story. As I mentioned, we don't have any of the state obligations. It's just that federal report. So I can hopefully fill in the gaps if you do have questions afterwards, if you ever want to learn more about it. Yep. So one of the ones that you may be interested in, I'll give you an example. Transportation Alternatives Program. Programmed 3.1, obligated 6.6 million. So we obligated more than it was programmed. A few cases on that, when there's additional funds that are available, it may not have been something that triggered an amendment, but it is this additional funds that are available to be reimbursed. So that would be a reason why that number is higher. And then sometimes there were some TA product delays, I believe, from fiscal year 22 that may have been completed and finally reimbursed in 2023. And so that's another reason why you might see a higher number than what was actually programmed.
Are there any public comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
Do we have any comments from members of the committee? Joanne?
I have a simple question. I'm sorry if I missed it. What does de-obligated mean?
Sure. So that would be so once it's obligated, there's a commitment to spend those, draw those down. If you de-obligate something, you basically had to pull it off that project and then find another place to put it. They tried to limit the obligations, like the federal government doesn't want you to apply to get these funds and then say you're going to spend them and then never spend them. So if they have to de-obligate, the state really gets hit over time with that. So if you're trying to de-obligate something, I wouldn't say it's like, the end of the world, but if you have too many of them, they're going to be flagging it.
Can you go back to the other slide?
The summary?
Yes. So I guess in the example of TA, 467,000.
Yeah, I would have to look into that specifically and see what that de-obligation was to see why that was the
I'm
case.
curious.
Yeah.
Personally.
I can look right now if you'd like.
Anything in the meanwhile?
Might take me a second. See how fast I can do it. See if I can do it here. Some of these are pretty small amounts, what I'm seeing here. I'd have to look in to see more about why. Seacrest Boulevard had a de-obligation of $989, $10,700 for Royal Palm Beach, various locations. That must have been one of their sidewalk connection projects. I see one in here for 17,000 for Belglade citywide funding as well. It looks like some of these are actually, they were able, I don't know why it would be like that kind of de-obligation. It looks like some actually had programs with other funds on them and then a de-obligation of transportation alternatives. So I'm wondering if they were able to replace those funds and pay it down some other way. But they look like minor amounts for all of them sort of in each project. I'd have to look into more details about why they had de-obligations. But I can follow up with that thought on that.
I don't know if I'm not understanding this properly, but when there's more obligations than what is programmed, is there any way for those de-obligated funds to go towards other obligations?
Yep, there is. I have to check in with FDOT to see how that occurs.
Yeah.
But something like a transportation alternatives, which is a direct formula that, FDOT makes sure they spend in our projects for our county. They should be going back to transportation alternatives projects.
Okay. Is there a way to confirm that?
Yep, that's a good follow-up.
Just want to make sure we're not losing money.
Right. Right, and that's actually one of those things I was talking about, advanced construction, right? So, that's why the state has that program set up, because sometimes states do over time, if they don't spend things down, it's gonna get swept back and reallocated to other states. Same could happen at the county level for our state.
Yeah, I mean, we've been going back and forth on the unfunded projects on the LI list for a while, and I see 1.8 deobligated there, and I'm hoping that money can go towards some of those projects.
It's a good one to follow up on.
Okay. Bobby.
Again, some clarification just to understand the difference. So if you have a project that's being scheduled to be constructed over 2 years, and whether it's being delayed or one phase costs more or so forth, would that be impacted here or? I mean, is it like kind of based on a year per year expenditure where it's something being delayed few months or something's gonna impact another year or one phase is a bit more expensive than the other?
Yeah, it's a good question, Fadi. I don't have enough details on the intricacies of how that plays out on the production side. Where, you submit your request for those federal funds to be obligated, how long you have to draw those funds down. Obviously, I think for the most part, you're trying to put the phase when possible, all the funding in one fiscal year instead of like throughout multiple fiscal years. And so when you have that opportunity to finally draw those funds down so they're obligated, I don't know the time frame and how that works in those agreements. And that's sort of what you're getting at, right? Where it's like you're not drawing it, you're not spending it all and getting reimbursed all in the same year. You sort of reimburse it over the, yeah. So I think you're still drawing those funds down. Why they might transfer to a totally different year, I'm not sure, right? So if you had the obligation in 2022, and you're getting reimbursed for that, and your product goes into 2023, if you're still drawing down that 2022 reimbursement, does that show up in the 2023 report? I would think it wouldn't, but I'm not sure. I'd have to get more into the details about that.
All righty, Jean.
I think I'm very confused. Let's just take the TA program. How can you obligate more money than you put in the program?
Right. So the thing is that, and this is where it's tough because the backup doesn't get you a clear answer on that, right? So a lot of these projects are products that they do not exist in the tip anymore. They're like prior years, and they're somehow still being obligated down. So that's a question I had for FDOT as well. Like, I want to get more information from them on that. This is actually my least favorite presentation every year because of the lack of true data that we can like help with the story. But we have a lot of products that they don't appear in fiscal year 2023, but they are still being obligated somehow from a prior fiscal year. So something's happening there in the work program for the state where things are still being obligated. Yeah. Now you can theoretically have, I'm sorry, one follow-up.
No, it makes sense if you're pulling it in from prior years. I'm just thinking about like if you were gonna, if it said instead of TA kitchen remodeling, you budgeted 20 and then you obligated your contractor to 40.
Right.
You'd kind of be in trouble.
Right. So there are also times where, like for example, transportation alternatives, and this is the same for a few other programs, when there's more funding that was made available, it won't always come to us as an amendment to amend the tip to put more money in there. If it's a small amount of money, they're just going to put it on there. So for example, we had TA funds that increased. And so there's a little bit of money that was left over. Maybe it's from a DL from prior year. There was also more money that came into the TA program. And so for fiscal year 2023, even though we went into the year with 3.1 million programmed, the obligation might be different than that, because there's more funds available to put towards projects, and they reimbursed up more than what was originally programmed for that project, cost escalations and whatnot. So that might be a reason where we don't go back and fix our program, our tip, if it's like a small administrative modification that the state did for reimbursement that we didn't capture. We'd like to start capturing those. That was another question I put into FDOT for that. But that's probably part of the reason there as well.
All right, thank you, Andrew. That concludes the information items. Move on to administrative items. Items 4A through 4D are informational only. There will be no staff presentations unless requested by a committee member. We have the governing board summary points for October 19th, 2023. FDDOT scheduling report, 2023 pedestrian bicycle quarterly crash report. Are there any public comments on these items?
No, Mr. Chair.
Do we have any committee comments? Nope. Our next meeting is February 8th. No January meeting, I guess. We get to meet.
I'm sorry, Michael Owens raised his hand. He would like to make a comment.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. No, actually, Tracy just corrected it. I saw on the agenda it said February 7th. I just wanted to make sure because the 7th was a Wednesday. So I was just curious if we were changing the day for some reason, but I assume it's going to be February 8th, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That was it. And happy holidays to everyone.
So yeah, the next meeting is February 8th. Okay. First.
Yeah, it's the FDOT scheduling report and 2023 pedestrian and bicycle quarterly crash report available. I don't want to hold up the committee meeting. I just want to be able to see it online.
Could you repeat that one more time?
Items B and C, are those reports available online?
Yes, it should be in the backup. You should have received it in the backup. Yep.
Okay, you can have it if you want. It's the whole backup. All right, and then our next, Joanne.
I would just like to say welcome to our new Palm Tran representative and the new TPA planner, Margie. I don't know if she's still in here or not. And I thought it would be nice if our board could take a moment to recognize the passing of Clinton Forbes last month. He is the executive director of Palm Tran and a really amazing leader for our county. It's a big loss for our county. And I certainly feel a big loss with his untimely death. So I just want to take a moment to recognize that and also say happy holidays to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you as well from Palm Tran.
All right. Our next meeting is February 8th, no January meeting. We get too many vacations here. And I adjourn this meeting. Our committee meeting is adjourned at this moment.